I'm spending the day alone today. Let's talk about it. So today, I'm spending the day by myself. Hi. Today I wanted to talk about loneliness. So one of the first things I thought about when thinking about the idea of loneliness is that it is a familiar feeling. I know that people have felt loneliness before. But today I specifically wanted to talk to people like me who struggle with depression or some other kind of mental illness. Psalm 23 characterizes God as a shepherd. And I think that's something that I've heard a lot in church. I don't know if you've heard it, but it's this idea that sheep are dumb, sheep are stupid, which is not 100% true. Sheep are actually kind of intelligent, but the one thing that they absolutely are is they are social creatures. If they are ever in a situation where they're by themselves, they get really agitated. In many ways, that's the same as us. I can see where the characterization kind of lines up because as human beings, we're very social people as well. And it is incredibly painful to be alone, or it can be. I'm not just talking about the times that, we get to take to ourselves. I'm talking about that feeling of loneliness that says, there's no one around me. What am I supposed to do with that? The fourth verse in Psalm 23 says, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I'll fear no evil. One of my favorite things about that verse is that it shows that God shows up for our emotional needs. This is important because I believe that God shows up for our physical needs. We see that in verse 2. It says, he lets me rest in green meadows. He leads me beside peaceful streams. That's him showing up to provide for us physically. But then in verse 3, you also see him providing for us spiritually, where it says, he renews my strength. He guides me along the right paths, bringing honor to his name. So God shows up in those different ways. But verse 4 is where I believe he's really showing us that he shows up for our emotional needs. When we zoom into verse 4, it says that the shepherd is with the sheep as they walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Now, this is not specifically talking about death, like the end of life, but it's talking about a place filled with darkness. I know that when I'm the most depressed, when depressive symptoms are heaviest on me, it almost feels like a big blanket is over me. It feels dark, if that makes sense. But it's also not a physical darkness that it's talking about. It's talking about just this idea of not being able to see what's going on, right? How many times have I walked around a place like Guitar Center, filled with people playing the guitar, but I feel like no one sees me. I feel like it's completely dark. Maybe that's you. Maybe the loneliness makes you feel like you can't see anything. My favorite part about that is the very next part of the verse where it says, I will not be afraid because you are close to me. So even though you couldn't see the shepherd was still there. If we turned out all the lights in your house in the middle of the night with your family sleeping, just because you can't see them doesn't mean that they're not still there. I don't know if that's an encouragement. This is not the end of the video. I don't know if that's an encouragement, but I at least want to share that, like, even in the middle of the loneliness, like, God is still present. Even in the middle of the loneliness, the shepherd actually hasn't left your side. I won't be going under. I'm not held by my own strength. I built my life on Jesus. He's never let me down. He's faithful through every season. So why would he fail now? He won't. If you zoom forward to the book of John, chapter 10, and you go down to the 27th verse. It says, "My sheep listen to my voice. I know them and they follow me." As believers with mental illness, I think it becomes so much more important that with everything that our therapists are saying, everything that our support system is saying, we would also keep our ears open to what God may be saying, especially in the moments when we feel the most lonely, because he never stops speaking. So we know that he is present. He never stopped being present, even when things were dark. If we go back to Psalm 23, the last part of verse 4 says, "Your rod and staff comfort me." Here's what the tools were actually used for. The rod was used to beat away predators, and the staff was used to gently prod the sheep back onto the safe path. So this shepherd who is present with us and is still guiding us is protecting us as well. That's one of the fears I have with loneliness. It's the fear of danger, the fear of not being believed if I were to share how I'm feeling or what depression actually feels like. But God is right there with you saying, first and foremost, if you can't tell anybody or trust anybody with what you're feeling, I want you to trust me, because I'm still guiding you, I'm still speaking to you, and I'm still protecting you. Protecting us in the darkest valley means that just like we're struggling to see God, we're actually also struggling to see what he's protecting us from. But I don't want us to neglect connecting with the Lord and actually listening for him, because he's speaking, he's protecting, and he's guiding us even when everything seems really dark. So maybe for you, God is prodding you to get back into studying the Bible, or find a church home, or get more involved in community, or go to therapy, or whatever it might be, especially in the face of loneliness. My question is, what is God prodding you to do in this moment? What is he actually asking you to do?